So in the last video about the Warner Brothers Paramount merger, I outlined the general facts of what we knew about the merger, but I did not go quite heavily into the specifics of what would happen with the streaming services, with AI, with the theatrical releases, or even with the layoffs. And as a result, my opinion on a lot of those things hasn't really been covered. I haven't put my opinion out there on those things. And I feel it's important for us to discuss what I think that is possibly going to happen with these different aspects of the new company that is going to emerge. And so in this video, what I'm going to discuss is that I ultimately believe that this merger will not work for a variety of reasons. AI, the theatrical releases, layoffs, and streaming services. In each of these aspects, there are enough worries and concerns for me to believe that there is enough here for this to go quite poorly for Paramount. So I'm going to divide this into the different aspects that I've mentioned, and we're going to delve further into all of them than I had a chance to do in the last video. So starting with what is potentially and most likely the most important for Paramount, it is these streaming services. Make no mistake about it, regardless of what Paramount and David Ellison tell you, the reason they have purchased Warner Brothers Discovery is for the benefit that the different properties can bring to their streaming services. So that is Batman, Star Trek, Game of Thrones, DC, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, as well as bringing in original properties such as Sinners. What we know so far is that Paramount Plus and HBO are to combine streamers, but there is no price given, there is no name, there is no suggestion about what brand is prioritized. Are they going to be on equal footing? Is one of them essentially going to subsume the other one? In some sense, I would say that the idea of Paramount eating HBO is equivalent to David eating Goliath, and the idea that Paramount Plus will just go, yeah, we'll bring HBO under Paramount Plus. It's disgusting for the output that Paramount Plus has compared to the output that HBO has. HBO should be the premier title. It should be the premier brand service. It should be the one given precedent. But given that Paramount is the purchasing company, is that in any way a good look for HBO to take the reins? And it doesn't seem likely to me that HBO will be prioritized. David Ellison has already said that HBO should stay HBO, and whilst that sounds nice, I think that more generally, I just don't believe him. An anonymous source within Paramount said that HBO is likely to be a sub-brand within the larger service, meaning potentially HBO is going to just get eaten up. What I also have a question about is, what does the pricing look like? Currently, HBO is $5.99 with adverts, £10 without adverts, and Paramount Plus is a standard $7.99. I would hesitate to price this above £14, especially on the Paramount Plus side, because Paramount Plus's output, in my opinion, is shit. When we look at the combined debt that is going to exist as a result of this merger, that is $79 billion. A lot of that debt is going to have to be paid off through the streaming services. If we were to say that the new price is £14, that would result in a profit of about $2.8 billion. If you were relying solely on the streaming services to repay debt, that would take 30 years repayment. In my opinion, the harsh reality for Paramount is that the premier brand and the face of the company, at least on the streaming side of things, should be HBO Max. It should be HBO that leads the way. Yet it is an optical and a marketing nightmare to imply or to allow people to believe that Paramount Plus has been subsumed by HBO. It is much more digestible if the audience believes that HBO has been consumed by Paramount and you attempt to switch over HBO Max subscribers into Paramount Plus subscribers by just telling them you get HBO and you get all this other stuff as well. But the other reality of the situation is that you need HBO to sell Paramount Plus, because the subscriber count of HBO Max is so much bigger than Paramount Plus. So in order to finance this debt, it is necessary to thread this very fine needle of encouraging people to come over to Paramount Plus because you've got HBO Max, but making sure that the output of Paramount Plus is so good that you are able to keep people there for your Paramount Plus shows, not just your HBO Max shows. However, given that David Ellison insists that they are going to keep films under the theatrical release banner, How do you sell this? It relies entirely on the TV business to convert people, and therefore that brings us on to the next topic. How do you segment the business of theatrical releases away from the streaming service, and how do you make both sides of this successful whilst insisting that both of them are core to the brand of Paramount? So we come on to theatrical releases and what David Ellison and Paramount have said so far about this, and ultimately why I think that this is nothing more than a marketing tactic from Paramount and Ellison, and why I think that they are giving us pipe dreams that they are just not going to live up to. So when Ellison took over Paramount last year, he said that by 2030 he wanted Paramount to be releasing 18 films a year. That means that roughly every month you would have to be releasing a minimum of one film, but you would need at least several months where you were releasing two films. What Ellison has since said, since proposing the Warner Brothers merger, is that he wants to have 30 theatrical films a year. This is to pacify and placate both the film industry as well as cinephiles, that this is the correct merger, and that he is a film lover, and that he wants to make film better, and that he wants to prioritize the theatrical release over streaming services. However, there is very little rhyme or reason that is able to convince me that you can release 30 films a year as a studio and it can work, and that you cannot be eating your own lunch. The reality is that he has said that all films that they release will have a minimum of a 45-day window. Therefore, if you take 45 days as a baseline and you apply it to 30 films a year, that means that at a minimum, you need your films in cinemas collectively for over 1,300 days a year. There is clear overlap, and there is already clashes that are presenting themselves that would be an issue between Warner Brothers and Paramount Films. You are incentivized as a studio to kill off films in order to start the cycle of the next film, so that all films have at least a mediocre box office, rather than releasing fewer films, having higher quality and higher grossing films that are more prestige and that are more satisfying to both those inside and outside the industry. What Ellison is actually proposing is that yes, you'll get 30 films a year from Paramount, from Warner Brothers collectively, but those films will not be of the quality that Paramount and Warner Brothers can release separately. I also went looking for clashes that might present themselves, and one towards the end of this year, I believe it's in September or October, is the release of Clayface and Street Fighter, which are just a week apart. The same broad audience are going to want to watch these films. How do you market these films when they are going to work against each other? The logic would dictate that you would prioritize the Warner Brothers films more because they have the more profitable and well-known properties. However, would the consuming company in Paramount allow that to happen? That seems unlikely to me. I also question Paramount's ability to handle the awards landscape. They haven't had a slew of awards-winning films in quite a while, so you would expect that they would take in a lot of the Warner Brothers personnel and put them in high-ranking Paramount places. I don't know if that's going to happen, but Paramount has already implied layoffs because they want to make about $6 billion back in savings. This is another one of my concerns. It is necessary to have layoffs as a result of this deal. How do you make $6 billion? Just not possible, which is why Ellison has said that they are going to focus on other areas also, although Ellison is implying that they're not going to focus on labor pretty much at all. I don't believe that that is an attempt to placate shareholders in the industry. It is just not the reality what Ellison is suggesting, and therefore mass layoffs are inevitable in my opinion. It is necessary in my opinion to have layoffs as a result of this merger, and given that Paramount is apparently wanting to improve efficiency and optimizing the tech side, you can see where this is going. Ellison has suggested that this isn't about consolidation, it's about reinventing the business. And what he means by that is that the Ellison family, as in Larry Ellison, his dad, is a massive tech genius and billionaire. And as a result of his connections, he is able to access the tech side of his father's company, and he is going to merge the Paramount Plus and HBO streaming services with technology to improve the algorithms on these services. I'm not convinced that by doing that you can compete with Netflix or Disney Plus. It is, in my opinion, too late to compete with Netflix. What I will say on the AI side, and that I find concerning about this, is that if they are willing to prioritize AI and are willing to use it in the production of their theatrical releases and their streaming films and TV shows, how do you onboard and how do you keep the filmmakers that you are potentially bringing over from Warner Brothers, such as Ryan Coogler and Paul Thomas Anderson? These are filmmakers that you should want to bring with you to Paramount, and yet AI inevitably with directors such as those auteurs are not going to want to work with you if you are using AI in a malicious way. I find the phrase tech-driven company or a film studio incredibly concerning. Do not get me wrong, I think this merger is going to go through. I just think that the merger is going to have such a hard time of convincing the industry that it is successful and that it is working to the benefit of the industry. It wants to compete with Netflix, it wants to compete with Disney Plus. I find it difficult to believe that they can do that even with technology. I am willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, obviously, because we haven't seen anything yet. But the history of Warner Brothers suggests that they are bought, i.e. Discovery, and then it doesn't work, it fails, and either the company that bought them divests or they are bought out by someone else. And I don't think that this will be permanent, just because I don't think that Paramount have the capabilities to handle a company such as Warner Brothers. And unless Paramount extract the right personnel from Warner Brothers, put them in Paramount and say, you have the entire reign of both of these companies, I don't see it working. And ultimately, I think a lot of the success of this merger relies on Paramount's ability to extract that talent, to keep that talent, and to give that talent enough power, money, resources, and freedom to make this work, both financially and critically. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you later.